Hola, bienvenidos a Silicon Valley. Esta vez les tengo una entrevista que estoy seguro que les va a gustar mucho, pero antes un pequeño saborcito de lo que vi en Colonia, Alemania, hace unos días. Tuve oportunidad de ir a este evento de videojuegos llamado Gamescom. Gamescom es un evento abierto al público, pero también uno de los eventos de negocios en la industria de entretenimiento interactivo más importante del mundo. Durante 3 o 4 días, muchísima gente se reúne, no solamente para hacer negocios, sino para presentarle a los consumidores que van al evento las novedades, los mejores títulos y bueno, pues todas las plataformas y los publishers y los developers están presentes para presentarle al consumidor sus novedades y los videojuegos que más les gustan. Es impresionante el evento, casi 350,000 personas en 200,000 metros cuadrados de exposición, más los pasillos que estuvieron retacados los 4 días. Impresionante lo que me tocó ver de todas las nacionalidades, además más de 870 expositores de todo el mundo. Me gustó muchísimo ver a gente de muchísimos países y además reunirme y conocer a muchos developers de pues muchas otras partes del mundo, y además por supuesto poder tener la oportunidad de jugar los mejores videojuegos y las últimas novedades de lo que viene en la industria, así como las nuevas plataformas, pero también una probada de pues los juegos casuales y familiares que también estuvieron presentes. También hubo mucha información para la gente interesada en dedicarse a los videojuegos, así que Gamescom me pareció un evento increíble en Alemania. Es verdaderamente un evento al que quiero regresar, y si tienen oportunidad pues no se lo pierdan. Es en Colonia, Alemania, y será en 2017 de nuevo. Vamos a la entrevista.
I was incredibly happy running the Xbox business for Microsoft, living in Seattle. And one June morning, I go into my office and get an email from an executive recruiter who I've had a relationship for many years, and in fact took me out of Reebok and put me into Sega. And the subject heading was "Time to Come Home." And I opened the email, and this gentleman had outlined that John Riccitiello had come back to Electronic Arts, was reorganizing the company, and was looking for a president of EA Sports. And the idea of having complete control, development, marketing on a complete vertical that was $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion at that time was too tempting for me. It combined everything that I had done in my career as regards 17 years in sports marketing with Patrick and then with Reebok. And then, of course, as you mentioned, with Sega and Microsoft. And when I read and then met with John Riccitiello, it was the perfect role for me. It was not easy to leave Microsoft. It was easy to leave the rain of Seattle, that is for sure, yes, and come back to the Bay Area. But it was a great job. And so I had to do a final E3. I was already kind of an EA employee at that point, certainly said yes to Electronic Arts, but did the final E3 where I infamously paused the guitar in Rock Band and a few other things. And then moved down to the Bay Area in late August, and for 4.5 great years was the president of EA Sports. Then John Riccitiello asked me to step up to the role of Chief Operating Officer, which I did for a further 4 years, and now in my new role as Chief Competition Officer for the company. Yeah, so I had left Reebok in early 1999 to join Sega. In fact, joined Sega, my first day was February 1st, 99. We were about 7 months away from having to launch a console called the Dreamcast. Things were not really going very well. The Dreamcast had some challenging times in Japan with its initial launch and in Europe. And so it was my job to build a marketing. I was the senior vice president of marketing, brought in to build a marketing platform for the Dreamcast and really focus it upon a couple of things. A, that consoles were getting more intelligent, and in fact our theme of our advertise was "It's Thinking." It was about the AI, about what was going on in the console itself and how it was able to make you a better player by learning what you were doing and understanding what games you liked and understanding how you were playing those particular games. But the real key, of course, the Dreamcast was the first online console, albeit through a dial-up modem. A little later, we had a broadband modem, but initially and most famously, you would listen for your telephone to kick in, and you would be playing online games on a 56K baud modem. Um, Very quickly after I joined Sega, I had to step into the president and COO role. And so on 9/9/99, we launched the first online console here in North America. Um, as everybody unfortunately knows, it was unfortunate that it only lasted a couple of years, couple of great years. But I like to think we laid the groundwork and the platform for the consoles that came later on. And I was fond of saying in those days, we are taking gamers where gaming is going, and gaming was going online. I saw a future where we would be able to, the industry, would be able to talk to our consumers every day instead of what was currently the case there in 1999, in which you pretty much launch the game, launch and leave, fire and forget, move on to the next game, and say hello again to your consumers a year or 2 years later. And I saw a future where we could talk to them every single day. Fast forward to me moving on in February of 2003 to Xbox, and we had already at Microsoft launched the Xbox, the original Xbox, and we were well underway to moving towards the plans for what turned out to be the Xbox 360 in November of 2005. The goals are simple: build out a solid, robust, and scalable platform that ultimately became Xbox Live, get ahead of our competition, which at that time was the Sony PlayStation, and make sure that we were going to deliver, if you will, like Apple delivered the iPod and iTunes, delivered both hardware and software that would work seamlessly together. And I think we did a great job with the Xbox 360. We started to bring gamers together with their friends. We started to bring gamers together with their games. We started to build on what now we see as the player journey, and started to have daily conversations through content, through downloadable content, certainly, expansion packs, and giving updates to the service. This hadn't happened before.
Yeah, and fast forward to where I joined Xbox as at that time corporate vice president in charge of Europe and Japan, and then evolved into running the Xbox business, reporting directly to Robbie Bach, having great interactions with Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates at the time, sharing their vision for what we saw the future of gaming, which was totally connected, building out Xbox Live from its grassroots to what it is today, 50, 60, 70 million people all playing seamlessly together, building games, most importantly, that were online enabled, that had rich online features, that became live services. And I like to think the Xbox 360 really picked up the baton from the Dreamcast and, of course, scaled it and took it into what the next generation is, where today we don't think twice that a game is online, fully connected, has updates, and in our case here, Electronic Arts, right, almost daily updates in all of our games, in particular our sports games that mimic the real world of sports. And again, in particular, our FIFA and Madden and hockey games. But obviously gaming has changed as a result. Young gamers today probably don't remember cartridges, don't remember games that were purely offline, don't remember the fact that they couldn't interact directly with game developers and the publishers themselves, and don't remember the days when you couldn't really get updates to the game at all to keep them fresh and exciting until the next one came out. And I like to think that certainly at Microsoft we were able to do that. Here at EA, as a pure third-party software publisher, we have the advantage, of course, of being platform agnostic and deliver our content just about every platform that has a button and a screen today. I take great pride in what we have done, in particular with games like FIFA and Battlefield, in which these are massive games that are fresh and exciting, have different experiences all the time, and online does that, obviously. And so when we think about what has changed, what is now a $100 billion industry this year, the connectivity, the ability to be able to update games all the time, new platforms such as phones, such as tablets, the impending growth of the industry on the back of virtual reality, augmented reality, and of course competitive gaming. All of these catalysts come together here to keep this the real junction of where technology and entertainment meet, and they meet at games. Our interactivity makes us a superior medium versus television, versus movies, versus music. Our interactivity allows people to be able to create their own game, mods are becoming more and more accepted even in console games, and the ability to create your own experience, go your own path, make decisions in role-playing games that impact the game itself. All of these things would never have been possible without online connectivity. And go back to the roots of the Dreamcast and more recently the Xbox and the Xbox 360, all of whom have been able to deliver their contributions to the gaming experience we quite frankly all take for granted today.
Right.
Yeah, we make a distinction between esports, which we see, think of competitive gaming as a pyramid, and esports, exciting, top of the pyramid, big, huge arena events, high production values, in a lot of instances, televised big prize money. That's great, and that's aspiration for the basis of what the rest of the pyramid are looking for. They all want to play there. We often use football analogies of, I grew up in Liverpool and I wanted to play for Liverpool, but I was never going to be good enough to play for Liverpool. But boy, did I convince my dad to get me a soccer ball and get me shin guards and get me my kit and take me to practice and sign up for clubs and play all these things. And there were millions like me. I liken that to competitive gaming today. There are millions, in fact, tens of millions of people who enjoy competitive gaming, that love the fact that they have this aspiration to one day play at Madison Square Gardens, or in the Bay Area here, the SAP Center or Oracle Arena, big event venues, and spend hours and hours practicing and playing amongst their friends and learning the nuances and the strategies of the great games, primarily right now the MOBAs, the League of Legends, the Dota 2s, and of course CSGO. In our world of electronic arts, we see it as very much an opportunity to be able to bring it to the mass market. Games like FIFA in particular, everybody understands football. Everybody can watch a game of football, whether it's real or virtual, understand what's going on, get excited when shots and goal are either go in or saved, and understand the basics of what it's about. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, though. There's real football on every day, on every television around the world. So we're somewhat competing with that. And we've got work to do at EA. We've got to make our games feel more like competitive gaming games. And we really see a huge opportunity to use both codes of football, the NFL, as well as soccer itself, to be able to mass market what competitive gaming is all about. Look, it's in the roots of who we are at EA. We love the idea of competing with each other, against each other. A tagline we used to have for Madden used to be, "I'm better than you and I can prove it." All in good nature, of course, but the element of sports we all love around the world is the banter, the trash talking, the competition. And competitive gaming has that in bucket loads. So it's going to take us a little while to really get into the roots and the depth of what we need to do. But we're a patient company, and I'm excited to be able to bring my sports background and my competition background from prior to video games, and then my experience in video games over the last 17 years. So yeah, when I think about career moves and what you do to keep yourself fresh and relevant, particularly as you get older, then it was a great opportunity for me, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it right now. First of all, I came here as an immigrant. I left Britain, came here. I was a PE teacher, so my skills were education and convincing 40 boys 8 times a day to do something they really didn't want to do in a snowstorm. So you have persuasive skills. But when you come to this country, or come to any country as an immigrant, you kind of take stock of what your skills are, and you say, okay, how can I set myself apart and make my own way in this country here? This is a country, the United States, obviously I'm referring to, is an optimistic, front foot, aggressive, let's get stuff done country. I came here, what were my skills? I was a soccer player. I had a foreign accent that Americans seem to think was legitimate and authentic when speaking about soccer. I was, like all immigrants pretty much, hardworking and had to work harder than, let's say, the average American as a result. And so I got a job, first of all as a soccer coach, and that allowed me to get through college and get a master's degree at Long Beach State University at night to stay legal in this country before I got my green card. And then secondarily, coaching for $5 a kid. 11 kids were brought by their coach for 2 hours, and I would coach, and I'd make $50, and absolutely delighted that I could pay my rent on my apartment and feed the family. But then at some point you figure, I gotta get a real job. And so I applied as a sales rep, selling soccer shoes, again, parlaying my ability to talk about the game, my accent, which was a lot more pronounced than it is today, and became a sales rep for a company called Patrick, a very famous company in those days, making shoes. Kevin Keegan, Michelle Platini all wore Patrick's. And my territory was San Isidro, right on the Mexican border, all the way up to Bakersfield, out to El Centro and Blythe on the Arizona border, and all the way up top to San Luis Obispo on the coast, and sold on commission. And if you really want to be hardworking and drive and live on the edge, then go be a commission salesperson, which means if you don't sell, you don't eat, and you don't pay the rent. But what you do, I think you take stock of who you are, what you have. Look, I'm from Liverpool, so as we say, we have the gift of the gab, which means we can speak, we like to talk, we're typically extroverted, and enjoy being around people, and I'm not short of self-confidence. I grew up in a pub. My dad put me behind the bar when I was 11 years of age to give him a break from 5:30 to 8 until he'd come downstairs, and so I was used to interacting then with adults and being able to make change and, completely illegally, but pull their pints and be able to play darts with them and interact with adults. And then thirdly, I became a teacher. And teaching requires you to take in a lot of information, 40 kids every 45 minutes, and figure out how you interact with ones that are really have promise and you spend extra time with them, how to cajole and jockey those who really don't want to get out there and play rugby or play football or play cricket in the summer, and how to bring the best out of them, and to be a leader. Because what you have to be as a teacher is be a leader and stand in front of a group of people day in, day out, hour in, hour out, and convince them to stretch further. Throughout my career, I've always been taking all of those ingredients, the recipe that is me, and being able to put them together. I've been very lucky. I've made some good decisions about companies to go to. I haven't worked in many places in my career, primarily 5 real jobs in best part of 40 years. But everywhere I go, I try and make a difference. I love the people I work with. I make a real point of getting to know everybody at every level in the company as best I can. Tough here at EA with nearly 9,000 people around the world. And at some point you stand for something and you become not necessarily a figurehead, but you become the embodiment of what you believe the company is all about. And in our case at EA, we've gone through some great times and then gone through some tough times. We're very fortunate as we sit here today to be going through good times, but that's not come without blood, sweat, and tears, a great strategy, tough decisions that had to be made years ago about downsizing the company and then rebuilding and remixing our talent to more digital natives. We knew that the digital transformation was coming. So I've been fortunate to be part of that, but more fortunate to be part of a very talented group of people. Many of us, unfortunately, are not with us now, but have gone on to other careers. And there are so many people in this industry that have EA on their resume, and that for me always acts like, I think, kind of the stamp of good housekeeping approval, which is you've learned your trade at the best place in the world. And there are hundreds of thousands of people in this industry that have passed through these doors or passed through offices around the world that have become better business people because they have EA on their resume. So today here is a big day at EA. It's Madden launch day. And even though I'm a Brit, I have come to love American football over the 30 odd years that I've lived here. As I mentioned previously, I worked at Reebok, which is in Boston. And one snowy day in 1992, I wandered to a little town called Foxborough, Massachusetts, and paid $10 to get into a stadium that was half empty because the worst football team in the NFL was playing, the New England Patriots, and they were 2-14 that season, and their nickname actually was the Patsies because they were terrible. But I fell in love with the Patriots. So that is, what is that? That's 24 years ago. And I've been a Patriots fan ever since. Today's Madden launch day. We're all encouraged because of the culture here at EA to have some fun, to have some football fun. I'm having some fun, some not so serious fun. As many people might know, Tom Brady is the quarterback of the New England Patriots. Tom Brady has to sit out the first 4 games of this season here. So in all good fun, I'm demanding we free Tom Brady. But it's Madden launch day and we're having fun. There's an expression in English that goes something like this: from small acorns do giant oaks grow. And what that means is tiny little seeds, an acorn, ultimately can turn into a huge tree like an oak tree. And the analogy I always paint is for every large developer that we now have, every one of those people somehow started off as a small developer or even an individual entrepreneur. They go to college, they learn the skills, computer science skills, audio, rendering, physics, AI, all of the things that you need to be able to build games, no matter what platform it is, the core fundamentals of game creation. The indie scene has never been more vibrant, never been more important, and certainly for us here at EA with our EA Originals program, we see almost having an obligation to go out and beat the bushes around the world looking for great indie games that deserve a bigger platform. Biggest challenge with indie development is discovery and figuring out how you can get your game in front of enough people, first of all, to be able to pay the bills, which is important, and then secondarily for you to be able to scale and then maybe get to the next game and continue to build. I think all of us in the industry, when I think of what Microsoft has done, what Sony does, reach out, look at young developers, small developers, but get that little feel for the magic dust. Yes. I think most famously, a couple of years ago, we did this with Unravel and found a studio in Scandinavia, a very talented and lovable developer called Martin Salin that had a real dream for a game, a very emotional game for many people who played it. And a difficult game for many people who played it as well, in a good way. But that game would never have come to light without Patrick Soderlund getting behind Martin Salin and his small little studio and giving them the necessary resources. And for this, in my previous role in publishing, getting behind it and getting in front of so many people. Was our goal to make money? Not necessarily, and that would be a secondary objective here. Our goal was to get a great game in front of as many people as we could in the world, right. And that's what we were able to do. Right. And you're going to see more of that with EA Originals. Going out, beating the bushes around the world, looking for great talent that deserves a bigger stage, a bigger platform, and deserves the engine that is EA to get behind them, both financially and then publishing and marketing, everything that it takes to get a game to market. Very important part of the ecosystem of our industry.